Okay, good morning. Let's do a show. This is the Leafs Convo Season 8, Episode 13 for December 7th, 2025. Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo, and you. Well, that's more like it, Mr. A. The Leafs points in four straight, having a three-game win streak in the bag over the past week, doing pretty well in December so far. That's 7 points, getting them into a place not only of respectability, but right there in the mix for whatever their hearts desire, whether it's a wild card spot or one of the top three spots in the division. It's all right there for the Leafs. And while I like to start the show off with a little bit of positivity because we have been really negative over the last month, I'm sure you'd like to temper that with your observations on how things have gone and how you think things may continue to go. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Norma. Well, and it would be sort of not me if I didn't look at the shady side of the mountain.
Mhm.
But I mean, I said going into that 6 game road swing that they needed to probably at least go 500 and hopefully better for them to salvage their season. And if you look at after the 6 game road swing, they go 4-2, and then they earn a point in a game probably that they didn't deserve to get a point in, but they got it because of Dennis Hildeby and Scott Lawton. You look at the standings. Tampa Bay, who they play on Mondays, got 34 points. The Bruins have 34 points. The Habs have 33 points. They have 30. So they're right back into it. So, but right now, and I look at what has happened this season, and I look at how the goaltending has been handled by Brad Treliving and by Craig Berube. And I really have to call them to task because, and I learned this, from my off the post co-hosts, Anthony Mangione and Russ Cohn, who cover the Flyers. Craig Berube, when he was the Flyers coach, went heavy using Steve Mason and I think they said Ray Emery. By heavy, I mean like playing them way too much and not playing the backup enough. But they were, Mason had his injury issues, but they were fairly durable. And then he went to St. Louis and he played Jordan Binnington to death. Okay. You've got two goaltenders here in Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz who have injury issues. So last year, I mean, Stolarz was overplayed at the beginning of the year. 17 of 27 games, blows out his knee. He misses 2 months. They have to play Woll. I believe at a certain point they had to play Matt Murray, and they play Hildeby 6 games last year. So, they had to lean on Woll. And then when Stolarz came back, they pretty much split it 50-50. I think Stolarz played a little bit more. But then they went heavy with Stolarz in the playoffs, and he broke down. Now, it wasn't his lack of durability that ended his season. It was Sam Bennett's elbow. But okay. So you go into this season, and the reality is, Joseph Woll, personal leave of absence. They have Dennis.
That's not on the coaches. So
that's not on the coaches at all, but that's something you have to deal with as a management and as a coaching staff. Dennis Hildeby has a really good training camp. So what do? They claim Caden Primo off of waivers. Now, the reason that they did it, and nobody has said that this is the reason, but put 2 and 2 together and it's 4. The reason they did it is because they were going to lean heavily on Stolarz, and they wanted Hildeby to play regularly in the American Hockey League. Mm-hmm. Okay, how did that work out? Primo goes 2 and 1, but he plays only 3 games. You play Stolarz 13 of the first 16 games, and then whatever his, it's shrouded in mystery, this upper body injury that they say was day to day. 3 weeks later, they haven't seen him on the ice. So you don't know when the hell he's coming back. Okay. So Woll comes back at the end of October. They ramp him up to simulate training camp. He goes to the American Hockey League. He plays 2 games. Hildeby plays once against Los Angeles and plays pretty well. I think it was 33 saves. Plays pretty well. But they rush Woll back. And to Woll's credit, he has played fantastically. He, even in the game against Montreal 2 weeks ago where they pulled him after being down 4-0, it wasn't on him. He was fantastic, but it was a mercy pull. but you played a guy who was injury prone 8 of 9 starts. It was inevitable that this guy was going to get hurt, like he did on Thursday in Carolina. Why? The only thing I can glean from this is that they don't have enough confidence in Hildeby, because they wouldn't have claimed Primo. They wouldn't have only played Primo 3. You could have played Hildeby more than 3 games because he's a better goalie. And now this time around, you start him once against Pittsburgh. You don't play him, you don't give Wall like 3 or 4 days off. You play Hildeby an extra start. No, they keep playing Wall, and Wall was great, but this is a flaw in Craig Berube and the coaching staff's mind's eye to do that. So Hildeby's played great.
Mm-hmm.
He's played.
That's the irony, right? As of last night, 33 saves against the Habs. Montreal probably should have won that game going away, but the 6'7" goaltender did a great job making huge saves, kept the team in the game. Didn't look too great in the shootout, but most great goaltenders don't. This is the combo for with Norm and Mike. Sorry, Mike. Let's get moving along here. We appreciate you being.
Sorry. Let me just finish the sentence. Sorry, and that there's no irony here, Norm. This was a miscalculation on the part of Craig Berube and Brad Treliving, and now it's cost them 2 goaltenders. Like I said, Stolarz has been out 3 weeks. We don't know when he's coming back. Joseph Wall yesterday, Berube says, "Oh, he's going to be back in a week." You'll probably see him after the Olympics, based on the way that these guys determine injuries.
Okay, so to start with, none of these guys were that great. They've all had injury issues in the past, right? So to start with, it's not like these guys, I'm talking about the management and the coaching staff, were dealing with like upper tier 3 healthy, revving to go goaltenders, and they fucked up the way they carouseled these guys. I mean, it was not an ideal situation, and I'm not backing them up. But what I'm saying is I think Craig Berube looked at Stolarz, who came off this big signing, was a guy who was great in the playoffs and then got injured, and forget about the data, forget about the history, made a decision based on emotion. And it backfired. It set the team back in terms of its goals to get the season started off on the right foot. And here we are. The irony is that they're left with Dennis Hildeby, Mike, when at the, if we could rewind it a month and a half, they should have had him offset and work with Stolarz game in, game out to kind of mine the net, literally and figuratively, until Joseph Wall got back, and then they could integrate him. But, I mean, what are you going to do, Mike? Here we are. The team has had a pretty good week, maybe the best week of its season, and the underlying issues are going to just be there as we go forward. Number one, case in point, is what's going to happen with the goaltending scenario. If Hildeby runs out of gas against Tampa and or a few other games during the homestand coming up, then what do? You're down to goalie number 2, 3, 4, 5 this season, and just as the team's beginning to pick up some momentum, here we are.
Well, I mean, in regards to Stolarz, if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's a duck. And he's been injured consistently throughout his career. That's why he was a backup in Anaheim. That's why
was he a bad signing? Should they have signed him? I mean, and were they thinking too much about that little run he had during the playoffs, and whether had he been healthy, they may have made it past the Florida Panthers and got to wherever they ended up.
$3.75 million is about right for a tandem goalie. The 4 years is what I had a problem with, but the cap hit is forgivable. I mean, based on what he did last year. I mean, everything was perfect last year, and then you were saying, they're not dealing with. I mean, it was one of the best tandems in the league last year, but you have to understand their limitations, and their limitations are you've got 2 goaltenders who can't play. Now, I think Wall can, but no goalie in this league anymore, with load management, plays 8 of 9 like Vasilevsky does, Shesterkin does. We're not saying Joseph Wall is one of the top 5 goalies in the league. You have to manage him a little better, but right. This is the problem here, Norm, is that you have a capable third goaltender who apparently they don't believe in the bullshit that Craig Berube was saying. Oh, Beast played well. He played great in training camp. And then why didn't you play him more? Because had you played Hildeby 5 games
Right.
instead of the 3 that Primo played and limited Stolarz to 11 games, then maybe he would have been fresher. Maybe he
Right.
wouldn't have gotten hurt. If he'd have played Hildeby 3 games instead of 1 game, then maybe Wall wouldn't have gotten hurt. I mean, I'm not dealing in specifics here, but there's a roadmap to follow here, and they keep going down the same bad road, and that's
Right.
the problem.
It looks like some of the guys up front are getting their shit together. Again, a great week. Your pluggers are scoring, your top guys are scoring. Nylander's gripping it a little too tight. Tavares kind of in the same boat, but they'll come around. And we're on the verge of seeing a fifth goalie, Akhtiamov, or however you pronounce his name, most likely going to get in if Wall and/or Stolarz aren't back soon, because Hildeby can't be the only guy. They have to offset one of these guys with some relief. Dare I say, Mike, the Leafs are in the market for a sixth or seventh goaltender to potentially play for this team? I mean, they're
Well,
not, like, again, regardless of whether this team gets back on track in general, if the goaltending situation continues as is, it's all moot.
all right, let's first of all, I don't believe that Wall's going to be back in a week, because I can't believe anything that the Leafs say regarding injuries. So if Leaf fans can hope that that's
Right.
the case, maybe he dodged. We don't know what it is. They just said lower body. They put him on IR. That
Right.
means he's out a minimum of 7 days. That means at the absolute minimum, the first game he could come back and play would be Saturday against Edmonton. Do I think he's going to play? No. But the schedule, in terms of the breakdown of it, is to the Leafs' benefit, because they play Monday at home against Tampa. They have 4 more games at home: Monday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday. They could conceivably play Hildeby all 4 games, because they're spread out enough that you don't have to go to Artur Akhtiamov, and they do not have a back-to-back in December. But so maybe they're hoping to get Wall back before Christmas. So you could conceivably go with Hildeby and not have to go to Akhtiamov, who has played pretty decently down with the Marlies, but he's untested, and you don't want to have to throw him in. I mean, if Hildeby gets lit up in a game, it'd be a good idea to get him some NHL action. But there is no safety net here, and I wouldn't have been in favor of keeping Caden Primo, because I don't think Caden Primo is an NHL goaltender, but you have to think that Brad Treliving is scanning the waiver wire. If anybody puts a goaltender on waivers and it's not somebody who's making a ton of money, they'll probably put a claim in for him to be a backup.
Yeah, this just lends to the greater concern about this season, and whether this season is going to be worth trying to pursue something of substance in the standings or the playoffs when all of the components just don't feel right. And again, we're talking about the goaltending situation and how tenuous it is as the rest of the team starts to move itself forward, right? I mean, no longer circling the toilet bowl, but moving its way up into a group of mediocrity. And that's fine. That's all we really need right now. Mike, look, Joseph Wall has barely started his career. This guy, his career to begin with was mired by injury. There was capability there, and there was all this, hope that he would eventually come around. But I mean, can we trust or rely, not necessarily just on Stolarz, but Wall too, to get on the ice and stay on the ice for a significant enough period of time to say he is just not an injury-prone goaltender, and at the end of the day, we'll have nothing to worry about? I don't think so.
I believe so, but I don't think you can play him 8 of 9 games. There's a balance here. I mean, had you played Hildeby a few more games, I don't think Wall would have gotten hurt. I mean, he played consistently last year. Okay. Now they went heavy with them, and they had to, because Stolarz was out. But you had that big break. You had that Four Nations break, and you're going to have the Olympic break. But right now it's like, I mean, now you're down to goalie number 3. And pretty much this season has been injury whack-a-mole. I mean, you got Matthews back, you got Matthew Nyes back. Now your 2 starting goaltenders are out. Now your 2 right shot defensemen in Brandon Carlo and Chris Tanev have been out for a while. Tanev may be back soon, because they say this week, he could, start ramping up. Right. But Carlo had a setback, and they lucked into Troy Stetcher, who's played really well on the right side playing with Jake McCabe. So they got fortunate in terms of their waiver claims and finding a veteran guy who they could plug in. But, the injury, they're not as deep of a team as they were last year in particular areas. And you have to, the reason for their success over the last week is the third line has gotten going, Joshua Roy and McMahon, and the fourth line with Lawton, Lorenz, and Nick Robertson have been good. And then you've been getting contributions from the first line. The second line has been sort of a desert right now. They're thirsting for water. And but at least three of the lines are going.
It's nice to see the support guys come around and carry the day. And that's what they've done. Absolutely fantastic. Just another thing on the goaltending. So Tampa Monday, you have your buddy Ryan Reeves and the Sharks coming into town on Thursday. It's Hockey Night in Canada against the Oilers. And then next Tuesday, you're looking at Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks. So, how do you mix up the goaltending assignments for those 4 games? I mean, it's not going to be Hildeby for 4, and the likelihood of the other guys coming back to save the day, slim to none.
I think it's going to be Hildeby for all 4 because
really so now we're getting back into overworking goaltenders because we don't trust the guy who's sitting on the bench waiting for his turn. This is madness.
But okay, like I said, they've got 2 days in between Tampa and San Jose. They got a day in between San Jose and Edmonton. They have 2 days in between Edmonton and Chicago. There's enough spacing that you can play. If Wall was healthy, they'd probably do the same thing because the thing. But
if Wall got shellacked and or hurt, you would complain that the guy was being overworked.
But I'm saying they would. What I would do is, okay, I would play. Say Wall wasn't injured and they had the 4 games and you had Hildeby as the backup. Okay, you played Hildeby against the Canadiens. You play Wall against Tampa. Then you play Hildeby against San Jose, and you give Wall 4 days of rest. And then he plays against Chicago. It's like you don't have to play when you have the opportunity to give these guys long rest. And with Stolarz and with Wall, you have to take advantage. You have to manage the goaltending. It's not just throw the guy out like every other player. Goalies are not every other player. They play 60 minutes a night.
Right.
The other players play 20.
Yeah, well, look, if you get some defensemen back, your third line stays humming. Tavares and Nylander figure it out. Matthews is kind of looking better. I mean, he's just more engaged in every single way. You tell me that you can't put Artyomov back there for a game, and he steals you one?
Well, I'm just telling you what this coach will do. And what he will do is he will play Hildeby 4 games. He
goes with his guys, Mike. He goes with it. He goes with his heart over his head.
Yeah, he goes with his guys, and this guy wasn't his guy until he had to be his guy.
Okay. This is the Convo. Norman, London, Mike in Buffalo. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Watch out for our YouTube shorts and all of the clips we cut up for TikTok. We appreciate you guys being here, but the more you like our content, the more you stick with us through subscription, the more we can find our way into the algorithm. We're not asking for too much, but we want to stay prevalent and relevant, and we're doing our best. Season 8 continues, and we enjoy it very much. Okay, so the Leafs have had their best week. The goaltending situation is not a stable one. It all remains to be seen every single night. It's just day to day, and we're here for it. And it's amazing the Leafs have done so well in the past week and a bit, especially on the road when they can't score a fucking power play goal. I mean, we've seen this before, Mike. It's not like the Leafs power play for the last 10 years has been notorious with all of those great goal scorers. It left most people scratching their heads over how you could have so much firepower and not put the biscuit in the basket when you have an extra attacker out there. Same old here. I mean, they have not scored a power play goal in December. And I mean, that's not sustainable. And we've said that before.
Well, and I have to apologize because apparently I in the Buffalo public school system did not teach me to read a calendar the correct way. They have 2 back-to-backs, one Nashville and Dallas on the 20th and 21st. The other one after Christmas, the first 2 games back, 27th and 28th against Ottawa and Detroit. So if Wall's not back and if Stolarz is not back, that will be your first opportunity to see Artyomov.
Okay, that's that.
But I think Wall hopefully Wall would be back by then. To the power play
until he's injured
until he's
another
injured.
time.
Well,
Okay, the power play, Mike. Like,
2 for the
how
last
do you
25.
fix that?
Well, I mean, the thing is, and people are saying Mark Savard should be fired. Well, I mean, Mark Savard was successful last year when they switched to the 5 forward power play. That's not an option anymore. Not because they don't have talent, but because you don't have a defensive forward and somebody who was a distributor of the puck like Marner was playing pseudo defense. Matthews is a shooter. You saw what happened on that shorthanded goal in Florida. That 5-4 power play is not wise, and they thankfully they decided to switch and go with Oliver Ekman-Larsson on the point. I think it was Paul Bissonnette or Biaxo basically said last night that they're very tentative right now. They don't seem sure of themselves. And I think that's a problem. I mean, we've seen power plays before, like Sidney Crosby and Malkin and all the talent in the world, and they just don't seem to click. This team needs to click on the power play. Last night, the reason that they didn't get 2 points was because they struck out on the power play, and they were bad. They were bad. Right. And if you compare that to Montreal, who was lethal with Slavkovsky, Caulfield, Suzuki, Hudson, and Demidov. My goodness. I mean, you know, I didn't, in your Wilford in the chat, I didn't like the 5 forwards last year, and it came back to bite them in the playoffs. I think they gave up a shorthanded goal with the 5-4 power play. I think you go back to Riley, but the whole problem is there is a tentativeness. There's like waiting for the perfect shot. No, just shoot the damn puck. Yeah, I'm not seeing like one of the 19,000 people in the crowd there yelling shoot.
It's the same story every year, Mike. I mean, can they not try to emulate what the Penguins and the Habs are doing? Or are they just so ingrained in their own way? I mean, power play is the 30th best out of 32 teams in the league, and you have one of the great scorers of our generation on the ice and healthy again, plus Nylander, plus Tavares, plus other guys. To me, there's the structural component, but it's just maybe the mental aspect too that is causing this group from being able to do anything of substance with the man advantage.
Well, you can't emulate Pittsburgh or Montreal when you don't have the same people. I mean, it's great. You can emulate the structure of what the Canadians do, but you don't have Demidov and you don't have Suzuki and you don't have Caulfield. You can you have your own capable players, but you have to sort of follow their tendencies. Now, the one thing, and this is not a slag against Easton Cowan. I think he's having a really good year and he's a good young player. And I'm encouraged that he is going to be a top 6 forward in this league. But if I were going to make one switch right now, I would put Matthew Knies back on the top power play in front of the net, and I would have instead of Cowan, I'd put Cowan on the second power play. I would have Nylander and Matthews on the 2 wings. You'd have Ekman-Larsson on the point. You have Knies in front of the net, and you have Tavares as the bumper. That's what I would do, and I would play that to death. And if it wasn't Ekman-Larsson, I would play Riley. You got to make that work because that's your best 5. And eventually it should work because there's a lot of talent there. But right now they have their head up there. You know what?
Okay. So, 4-2 on the road swing, picking up a point against the Habs last night. Probably shouldn't have, but they did. Moving their way up the standings. So 7 points crucial, taking them from the bottom rung into the pack now. With the goaltending situation the way it's been, without scoring on the power play, did it really just come down to facing teams that were struggling as much as the Leafs have been struggling and, getting that third line to kind of come to life? Or was there anything more to it?
I don't know if there's anything more to it. All I know is that right now, thankfully, the way the Leafs have played, they've gotten themselves back in
the way the rest of the league is playing.
Well, and not the rest of the league, but the Eastern Conference.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we look at the Atlantic Division, and even the teams that are a step above, that are in the Metro, excuse me, they're only a few points ahead of the other teams in the Atlantic. Right now, the Atlantic is Tampa Bay, Boston, and Montreal at 34 and 33 points, and the Leafs have 30. They win 3 of 4 on the remaining 4 games of this homestand. They're probably in third place in the Atlantic Division because everybody's sort of cannibalizing each other. Right. And I mean, it's sad to say even Buffalo is not completely out of it, although they're 7 points behind everybody, and they have been the most inconsistent. They represent, they're more like the Toronto, the 2007 to 2009 Matt Sundin Leafs than any team I've ever seen. They win 2 games, they lose 2 games. They're the people in Buffalo who are Sabre fans, who are friends of mine, are ready just to like pull their hair out.
Do you get booed when you go into the Wegmans, or you're perusing downtown Buffalo on a Friday night because of the way you feel about your hometown Sabres? And I'm sure anybody who's within the know when it comes to hockey in your region is aware of you as Mike in Buffalo, but the biggest Toronto Maple Leafs fan and hater and loather there is. Like, what's that like for you, Mike?
No, they don't boo. I'll just give you a little window into my life. There's a place I go for dinner on Saturday nights, and I usually sit at the bar, and you don't want a Wegman sub. They're not that good. I go, and I'm friendly with the bartenders, and one is a super Sabre fan, and he's like, the Sabres are making the playoffs, no doubt. Like, I go in a couple weeks ago and they had won like 3 or 4 games in a row, or 3 games in a row or whatever, and he's like, hey, what about those Sabres? And I'm like, yeah, wait.
Right.
And I go in yesterday and says, hey, how about those Sabres? And it was like a stab in the back. I'm like, no, that is the Sabres. That's what they are. I'm sorry. I'm not basing this on my hatred of the Sabres. I'm basing it on the empirical evidence that this organization for the last 14 years sucks. And friends of mine who are Sabre fans, it drives them crazy. Just like it drives Leaf fans crazy that this team, as good as they have been over the last 8 or 9 years, can't get out of the first round.
Right.
There is something symbiotic here about the 2 fan bases, but it's different levels. Just like the Carolina Hurricanes can't get past the Eastern Conference Final, the Leafs can't get by the first round, the Buffalo Sabres can't get in the playoffs. They're all at different levels of crap.
Yeah, you know what? The Sabres have done nothing in the last 15 years. But in the grand scheme of things, neither have the Maple Leafs. And the run of futility has been much longer, even though the Buffalo Sabres do not have a Stanley Cup title to their name. The question will be, going forward, which franchise will win it first? We thought the Maple Leafs would for the past 10 years. But now I don't know, as we're seeing a lot of other teams that they've been ahead of for so long catching up. Scotty Lawton with points in 3 straight games. We've been talking about that third line. I mean, Waugh, Joshua. I mean, what we're seeing right there is really encouraging. And just watching over the past week, the way they won in Carolina, like, regardless of where they are in the standings, Mike, when I see that kind of hockey, it makes me excited. It just gives me some kind of hope. With all the other troubles that ail this team and will continue to ail the team, coming and going, getting better and worse over the course of the next 60 games or 55 games or whatever it is. But when it's inspired hockey, even last night, even with the great goaltending and kind of being in the game, that's good enough for me for now.
Yeah, well, I mean, he did not have injury issues for all the time that he was in Philadelphia. So everything that has happened.
Right. What a goal last night, too. Slapper.
Everything that's happened with him recently has sort of been not characteristic. I mean, I think the criticism of Lawton has been the trade, has been giving up a first-round pick for somebody who is playing.
And that's not his fault, so.
No, it's not. But I think it reflects on the point of view of the fan who says they gave up a first-round pick in Gurbenkin for this guy. Now, the way he's played the last few weeks, I mean, you see how it balances the lineup. You have him as a 4th-line center. You have Waugh as a 3rd-line center. You have Matthews and Tavares. You're strong up the middle. Right. And he made a difference playing 4th line. Now, what I think is going to happen here is if he continues to play this way, you're going to see him sign to an extension because he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. They traded a first-round pick for him. They're going to want to lock him up, and he's from the Toronto area. So,
and that's good business, right? I mean, hey, if you've lost the future, if this guy is healthy and does the job and the role that really is essential, especially when we get into March and April, then keep him around.
He's only 31. You don't sign him to a 5-year deal, but you sign him to a 2 or 3-year deal. And he's from Toronto. His family is here. He wanted to come back. So I'm sure They can make, just like they made amenable deals with McMahon, with Benoit, with Hildeby. They got Hildeby on a 3-year deal for less than $1 million a year. I mean, with Stolars, with Wall, I mean, there is an advantage to sort of talking a little earlier. Both McMahon and Lawton are unrestricted free agents at the end of the year. I don't see the Leafs falling out enough that they're going to sell. But if they do, those two guys are probably going to get traded. But the way that they're playing lately is closer to the way that they played last year, and that's encouraging. And with the addition of Cowan and his growth as a youngster, he's only going to get better. So what they need right now is they need to get Carlo and Tanev back. And they need to get one of their goaltenders, and preferably both of their goaltenders, back.
The goaltending situation has to settle down, and I have no confidence that any of these guys will represent the settling of the most crucial position on the ice. Yeah. I think for as much as we wanted Matthews to score at a clip he's scored years ago, and Nylander to keep putting pucks in the net and be as effervescent as he's ever been, and this team to be more responsible defensively, it really is going to come down to the goaltending. And it's a kind of a weird twist of fate, because at the beginning of the year, we were thinking, all right, there's your platoon. They were good for most of the season. Stolars was all world in the playoffs and kind of, almost mythical status. Mm-hmm. And it's been the goaltending that is, and the way it's been managed too, that has really kind of set this team back, Mike. Just a few other players I wanted to bring up. Nylander hasn't looked too good. But he'll come out of that. Max Domi, since I suggested he retire a week ago, 6 points, 5 points rather, 2 points against Pittsburgh, point against Florida, 2 against Carolina. I mean, he was present last night, Mike, not just on the roster card, but I saw him last night. He didn't do much, but offensively, but he was there. And honestly, Matt, whether you're playing fucking center or wing, buddy, earn your money. Earn your money, or you're going to get bought out in the offseason.
Right, but to accentuate the positive, to make a player the most successful, you play him where he plays.
Right. But why? So why is he not? The coaching staff must have a different view of things.
No, because they have an injury, so they say, okay, well, he's played center before, so we just move him to the middle. He's a terrible center.
But he's had a good week, and that's reflective of the team.
No, because he's playing on the wing with Matthews and Nyes, where everybody said that's where he belonged, and he's playing where he belongs, and he's a good passer, and Nyes and Matthews are defensively responsible, so they cover up for his defensive irresponsibility, and it works. I mean,
but being who he is, should he not be prepared to have to moonlight?
No, because he sucks at it. You just don't do it. I mean, I'm sorry. If all of a sudden one of their centers goes down, Berube is going to automatically move Max Domi into the middle. I'm sorry. I'd play Dakota Joshua in the middle. I'd play, Steven Lorenz in the middle before I play Max Domi, because Max Domi is a liability.
What is he seeing that you're not seeing, and vice versa?
Well, I mean, hey, I'm not a coach. All I know is I know it from empirical evidence from watching Max Domi throughout his career. They've tried to move him to center. The only year he had success as a center was in Montreal. Right. And every other time because his defensive inabilities, he's a better fit as a playmaking winger, and he's a better fit with Matthews and Nyes, because he's not Mitch Marner, but he's got the passing ability of a Marner, or at least something close to it. Just going through some of the things that were mentioned in the chat. T-Sack is like, Lawton trade okay, Carlo trade boo. Okay, Carlo's injured. We don't know how long he's in. He may have been playing injured. But he's a right shot defenseman.
There's nothing you can do about it. Like, I don't want to sit here and just keep lamenting things you can do nothing about. Okay, when Brandon Carlo was traded, when they brought him in last year, he was the guy they needed. They needed a big guy. They needed a big guy with a bit of pedigree, came from a winning program, and had this team moved through to the third round of the Stanley Cup playoffs and maybe even, took a nip at a Stanley Cup championship, we wouldn't be having these conversations
Yeah.
right now, Mike.
And Carlo's got another year in his contract, and the teams are looking for a playoff experience right shot defenseman, and they want to move on from him.
Right.
They could trade him, but they need to get him
Right.
healthy. But I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm keeping him. I mean, I love Leaf fans. I've been one in the past. I'm a member of the media now, so I can't wear my blue. I have my blue and white pom poms. Everybody's like, oh my God, Fraser Minton is doing. He's got 8 points.
Who cares?
I like Fraser Minton. He's a good kid. I wish him a lot of success. You have to give up something to get something. So, now Alex Steves, there I have a problem with this organization. That guy languished in the American Hockey League for 3 or 4 years. He showed a lot of ability. He scored with the Marlies. They never gave him a chance. Never even gave him fourth line. They never get, and now he's scoring with the Bruins, just like Justin Brazeau, who played in the Leaf organization. Now all of a sudden he's playing for Minnesota, he's played for Boston, and he's scoring.
It's just better elsewhere, Mike. And I was talking about this with my colleague Aaron Lobb, who was a 4th-round pick of the Tampa Bay Lightning, 25 years ago, a London Knights star, and he knows hockey very well. And we were wondering whether the player who's in Toronto is just going to be different elsewhere, because there's the bright lights, the pressure. There are intrinsic things that affect players when they are at Scotiabank Arena representing the blue and white versus being elsewhere representing another team, Mike. It's rare to see a guy who's languishing here but has capability go elsewhere and continue to languish. I mean, at least temporarily, they seem to find their way, and it's almost as if it's the cloud that that prevails over this organization and the group who represents it versus it's a freeing moment to leave Toronto and go elsewhere and not have to feel the weight of all the anxiety and all the failures of the past. Last few words to you, and let's get out of here.
Okay, but the issue with those two players specifically, Brazeau and Steves, is talent recognition. It's not the pressure. I mean, the pressure may have been on Fraser Minton because he was their top pick in 2022.
Sure, and it's part of it.
And they talked him up. I mean, the pressure doesn't seem to be affecting Cowan. I think Cowan is a talented enough player that he sort of goes past it.
But he hasn't been elsewhere, Mike. I'm saying guys who leave here and go elsewhere. I mean, we were even talking about Ryan Reeves. He's having the time of his life.
Good.
In San Jose, and I know you hate his guts, but he's awesome. Macklin Celebrini loves him.
I don't hate his guts. I think that Brad Treliving made most of his errors as a general manager in the first 2 months of being general manager, and the Ryan Reeves contract.
But the cloud is over the management of the Maple Leafs too, who make fucked up decisions.
He didn't do what he was supposed to do, which was to be an enforcer, to be a protector. He's a protector out in San Jose. All of a sudden, he's a protector. But he didn't do that. He didn't do that in Toronto.
Do we know definitively that he wasn't told not to fight?
Well, then what was the point in signing him? To be the DJ in the locker room? I mean, come on. No, Mike V, I just have to say this. Carlo for Quinn Hughes per Eklund E5. Consider the source. That's all I'll say.
Oh, come on.
Consider the source.
What else did I want to talk about? I kind
of one of the people in the chat was Lawton 4 years at $3 million. That's probably the type of deal that gets done. The salary's not ridiculous. Maybe it's a year or too long, but they stretch out the AAV. I think that's probably what happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rush to do it. A lot of teams are going to negotiate deals with players during the Olympic break. So you're probably going to see because there's no trades going on there's a trade freeze during the Olympic break.
Yeah, we're a bunch of schizophrenics as sports fans, and I use that term, as lightly as I possibly can. But listen to me. We all hated Scott Laughton last year. They traded a big piece for him, and he was shit. And it was such a terrible trade. And now, he's kind of found his footing a little bit, doing his job at the bottom of the lineup. And we want to sign him. I mean, it's crazy. Brandon Carlo comes back and plays quiet hockey, plays big, lends to the success of the team, and we'll love him again, Mike. It's honestly, it really just comes down to the results. And even when the team is doing well, we'll find ways to break it down unfairly. But this is typical of a group of fans, whether Gen Zs, millennials, Gen Xers, boomers, who are collectively exasperated due to the fact the team that it loves so much has won jack shit in the last 50 plus years. Last word to you.
How does this defensive core sound? Top pairing, Riley Carlo. Second pairing, McCabe and Tanev. Third pairing, Ekman Larson and Troy Stetcher. That sounds pretty good. And you know what's missing there? Simone Benoit and Philippe Myers are in the press box. Where I think
Benoit was good for a lot of last year. He hasn't had a great start to this season. Again, it's the ups and downs, but I don't think you just castigate him or ship him off because he is a good seventh at least.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not placing him on waivers. I'm saying, break glass in case of. But Troy Stetcher's been playing 20 plus minutes,
right,
and he's playing good. So you stay with that. That if they can,
we don't know how long that's going to last.
Right. If you can get back to that defensive core with those three righties, that's probably a really good defense. And then hopefully you have your goaltending back. So there's my last word.
Spike 11 wants Riley and Carlo traded because Quinn Hughes is on standby to complete that deal.
Spike, I love you, but I'm glad you're not the GM.
We wish you were the GM at least for a week, Mike. I'd just love to see how you would the ripples sent through 40 Bay with Mike Augello, the artist formerly known as the podcaster with the Leafs Convo, taking over his beloved and hated Maple Leafs.
Keith Pelly would fire my ass in 2 seconds, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean Keith Pelly's watching this, right? Because I mean the nickels and dimes are extremely important to how things go. But again, I just don't want to see this team lose out on opportunities to augment itself for a better future in the immediate, just to get an extra few gates in the playoffs and bow out and leave everybody with another bad taste in their mouths. Mike, thanks for all you do. OG's converts, like the content, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you very much. Stick with us. We have much more of season 8 to come. In the meantime, enjoy the successes that we've seen from the Maple Leafs. A big week ahead with home games throughout the next 8 to 10 days. Good opportunity for the Leafs to move their way up through the standings, and hopefully they'll get some guys back in the process. For Mr. A, I'm Mr. J. The Leafs Convo is out.